around it, called evolution, an evil way to take the holy word and confound it. We've come so far, we've learned so much, but no amount of evidence can make it clear to us. As a matter of fact, facts don't matter. Science and reason, just empty chatter. What you buy the line, there is no truth. What you make up your mind, there is no proof. When emotions are entwined, delusion will not shatter. As a matter of fact, as a matter of fact, facts don't matter. Oceans are rising as glaciers melt. Photographs and data tell the story. A heavy reckoning will soon be dealt. The planet's crying out with the warning. The broken records are more than Fahrenheit. They're the rhetoric of ignorance, the politics of plight. As a matter of fact, facts don't matter. Science and reason, just empty chatter. Once you buy the line, there is no truth. Once you make up your mind, there is no proof. When emotions are entwined, the illusion will not shatter. As a matter of fact, as a matter of fact, facts don't matter. We don't need another confirmation, pulling the curtains on reality. Could we dare to have a conversation and question what we believe? Conspiracy theories, facts don't matter. Anti-vaxxers, facts don't matter. Miracle herbs, facts don't matter. Scriptures, fill in the blank. As a matter of fact, facts don't matter. Science and reason, just empty chatter. Once you buy the line, there is no truth. Once you make up your mind, there is no proof. When emotions are entwined, delusion will not shatter. As a matter of fact, 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 facts don't matter. Huh. Good morning, Sunday Assemblers. Great to have you with us today. We had a slight delay initially, had a last-minute failure of internet within a whole building to deal with, so sorry about that, but we have a great program lined up for you today. Why we think what we think. That's already something to think about. This program has it all. Corny jokes, my favorite, beautiful poetry, the king of street epistemology, at least in my book, the inimitable Anthony Magnabosco, and more. We've got questions, we've got answers, we've got a personal story from an ex-church music minister, a moment for reflection, music of course, and even the passing of a virtual collection plate. Kinda. Anyway, let's get started with the answer to the poll question. I hope you saw it initially and had a chance to chime in. When somebody says, "Someone knows it, so I know it," what's that called in the world of conversation and street epistemology? Well, the correct answer to that would be the unread library effect is the correct answer. When somebody asserts knowledge about a topic, they're often just repeating a position they heard elsewhere. A good approach to softening a possibly hard position on this topic is to model behavior that shows it's okay to admit a lack of information and then ask detailed oriented questions. Let's say you're discussing climate change and someone states that nuclear energy options are just out of the question because of the dangers associated with nuclear waste. You might say, I suppose there might be pros and cons about nuclear energy. I don't really know all the answers. How many households could one modern nuclear facility power? How long must the waste be stored? How do you store it? Other than waste storage, is there any other potential risk? How cost efficient is nuclear energy? I just really don't know, but I'm interested to find out. What can you tell me? One of the two things is likely to happen. You'll either learn quite a bit from an actual expert, not so likely, or you may make it easier for a person to admit that they really don't know either. Now, for that corny joke. The famous philosopher René Descartes walks into a bar. The bartender asks, "Can I get you something?" To which Descartes replies, "I think not." And he therefore disappeared in a poof of logic. Thank you. I can just hear you laughing out there. Now, while you're trying to catch your breath after laughing so hard at that zinger, let me tell you a bit about Sunday Assembly. It was started by two English comedians with the idea that it would be the best bits of church without the supernatural or God parts. Our fantastic motto, live better, help often, and wonder more, is designed to help us live our best lives, build purpose through supporting others, and connect with each other and this awesome world we live in. Sunday Assembly is 100% a celebration of life. We are born from nothing and go to nothing. Let's enjoy it together. Sunday Assembly has no doctrine. We have no set texts, so we can make use of wisdom from all sources. Sunday Assembly has no deity. We don't do supernatural, but we also won't tell you you're wrong if you do. However, after today's assembly, we might have some thought-provoking questions for you. Sunday Assembly is radically inclusive. Everyone is welcome, regardless of their beliefs. This is a place of love that is open and accepting. Sunday Assembly is free to attend, it's not for profit, and it's volunteer run. We do ask for donations to cover our costs and support our community work. Sunday Assembly has a community mission. Through our action heroes, that's you, we will be a force for good. Sunday Assembly is independent. We don't accept sponsorship or promote outside businesses, organizations, or services. Sunday Assembly is here to stay. With your involvement, Sunday Assembly will make the world a better place. Sunday Assembly won't tell you how to live, but we will try to help you do it as well as you can. And remember, point number one, Sunday Assembly is a celebration of the one life we know we have. I have a few opening thoughts before we move on to our presenter of the day and some of our other components. You know, when I was putting this opening statement together, I put it together without the knowledge of which presidential candidate, if either, might now be declared the winner of the election. So I challenged myself to resist the tendency to celebrate my preferred candidate's win or woefully lament the victory of that other scoundrel. Instead, I am happy enough to just present these thoughts as an average Joe biding my time in the game of life until the trump card is played. Out. Oops. Guess I failed my challenge. In our opening song today, there is a line that states, "Once you make up your mind, there is no proof." I couldn't help but think of that line in the recent context of our polarized political climate hell. I suspect that most of us decided long ago who would be getting our vote just days ago. And no scandal or outlandish revelation had even a lottery's ticket's chance of changing our minds. If Joe Biden had come out on national TV and stated for the whole world to hear, yes, I used my position as vice president to facilitate billion-dollar deals for myself and my family, most Biden supporters would probably still have pulled the lever for him. If Donald Trump had explicitly stated, yes, I am the most xenophobic, racist person in the room, and I plan to make things even worse for anyone who's not a white male, I would bet my puny 401k that he would have lost no more than a handful of votes. After this highly charged and divisive election, you can be sure that our country is now filled with millions of deliriously happy winners and millions of bitterly angry losers. Sometimes the contentious divide might even be found under a single roof, within a single family, pitting parent against child, sister against brother, aunts, uncles, roommates, and even spouses against each other. We're going to need every communication skill we can muster if we are to begin the process of healing this fractured nation. I think it might serve us well to revisit a conversation by Meno and Socrates in the 4th century BCE. Socrates asks Meno, "Doesn't everyone, in your opinion, desire good things?" Meno's first response is, "No." But after a few questioning exchanges, agreement is reached that nobody desires bad things. Intentions generally deserve the benefit of a fair hearing. While there might be exceptions to the case, such as internet trolls or psychopaths, we might all do well to enter into difficult conversations without some of our worst assumptions, like conservatives are racist, liberals are patriotic, or aren't patriotic, pardon me, Republicans don't care about poor people, Democrats are weak on defense. When we approach a conversation with an immovable bias that allows us to assign a person's intent and motivations even before a word is spoken, the great divide of today's hyperbolic extremes is likely to be perpetuated. So, I'm encouraging each of us to at least make a good faith effort to understand when we can, talk through disagreements, acknowledge differences with minimal judgment, and heal our collective wounds as quickly as we can in the near certain discordant days ahead. That leads me to a conversation that I'm hoping to have with a personal friend of mine. He lives in another state, so I haven't had a chance to speak with him in person recently. Let me tell you a little bit about him. He's a musician and fellow songwriter. He's about my age, and we come from similar Southern backgrounds. We have enjoyed many an evening of picking, singing the oldies, writing, and maybe putting a sizable dent in a bottle of bourbon. He is lively, upbeat, sometimes hilarious, as kind as anyone can be, generous, gentle in both words and deeds, and so honest that he wouldn't tell a white lie even for a beloved friend. In all these ways, he is one great guy. But my friend is also a QAnon follower and a fan of Alex Jones. He believes even to this day that former President Obama will one day be hung in the Washington, D.C. mall, and that the Clintons and their Hollywood elitist friends are sex-trafficking, baby-killing, blood-drinking pedophiles and are part of the deep state conspiracy. He believes it was government-placed explosives that brought down the Twin Towers, that Sandy Hook was a hoax, that Trump will go down in history as the greatest president ever. He believes that one day, when his mortal life is over, he will be raptured into a glorious eternity, and that despite instances where fervent prayer for a cancer-stricken loved one ended with a funeral, Finding a fantastic deal on a carburetor is still a sign that God answers prayer. I care about my friend. Our friendship precedes the uncivilized, adversarial, political reality of today, and there is so much good about him. But I am at a loss to understand how he comes to hold beliefs that many of us would categorically call wildly implausible, delusional ideas. Universe willing, when I do see my friend again in person, I'm going to need a toolbox filled with the best conversational tools available. I'm starting with a genuine interest in my friend, and I will continue to add tools to my toolbox. Today, I hope to add the answer to this question: why we think what we think. Stay tuned. There's a lot still on tap on the program today. For now, let's wonder more as we listen to a somewhat whimsical yet philosophical poem by the poet Valencia. Today's reading will be presented by Michelle Gilmour.
We met on a road by an old Circle K. I wished I smoked so I would have an excuse to sit and stay, with the boy on the corner talking about the universe. There's no point to anything, he said. I suppose as an introduction, he held out his hands as if to say, stay, listen. And I did, because back then the sixpence Socrates could change my mind. It's a strange thing falling in love with a stranger, because it turns you into a stranger as well. I didn't recognize my voice as I said, okay. And sixpence Socrates smiled. It seems to me that pain is a temporary emotion. That is the vast expanse of our universe. Why would my pain matter at all? And he is quiet just then, and looks at the sky. I wish I could see the stars. He smiles again and talks for a long time of living in circles, living in lies, living as if we are in control when really fate controls this mess of particles we live in. The universe is so big, he whispers. I wonder if it knows we are here at all. And sixpence Socrates smiles again and asks for a sixpence. He goes to the old payphone on the corner and says he calls the universe. And when a lady picks up, he says, hello. But I am still waiting there, waiting for him to come back and patiently explain what I could never wrap my head around. My sixpence Socrates does not come back, because he himself is just an anomaly of this universe anyway. I was probably never meant to hear. Late at night when I can't sleep, I think about his words and smile. How he touched the freckles on my face and said, Cassiopeia, in his way of almost not talking at all. And I could almost hear his voice say, all of the moments in the universe leading up to nothing in particular, because who would plan something like that? Something so big and complex. You couldn't.
Thank you, Michelle. Sixpence Socrates. That's just what the poetry doctor ordered. I'm feeling better already. Our featured speaker today, Anthony Magnabosco, is a skeptic and atheist from San Antonio, Texas, who has been practicing and promoting street epistemology since 2013. Anthony has had several hundred chats, many of them on camera and uploaded to his YouTube channel, on a variety of claims including gods, ghosts, karma, law of attraction, and a variety of social and political topics. Anthony has been interviewed on countless podcasts. He is also a founder and the current executive director of the new nonprofit organization called Street Epistemology International. Anthony has given dozens of talks and workshops on street epistemology at conferences, he did NanaCon here, and events domestically and internationally. Let's take a quick look at Anthony in action on this excerpt from one of his YouTube videos. Afterwards, I will come back for a bit more personal introduction before he speaks. Roll that tape, please.
I think what you're saying is that I would be less moral I would act out in a less moral fashion if I discovered that I don't have a good reason for thinking that God is real.
I think that I would, yeah. I think everyone.
So you're talking about a specific God that you want everyone to act as if is real. Am I getting that right?
I think that certain fundamental tenets of morality apply to everyone. And I think that the Christian God does a very good job of compelling people to act within those tenets.
When it comes down to it, are you saying that people will be more apt to act in a moral fashion if they either believe in a God or accept the concept of a God?
I would be willing to bet that if you did... So yes, to answer your questions. I imagine that people who were more religious would score higher on morality. But that might just be a Western thing, or, you know, I could be totally wrong.
You could be totally wrong. Are you open to data to show that you're wrong?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What would that do to your philosophy? If we looked at secular countries that don't believe in any gods, and yet they are acting in a moral fashion to your satisfaction, to the point where you say, they're acting more moral than people who are thinking that there's a God. Do you think that you need that extra little bit of push to be a good person, and therefore that God, the idea that this God is real, is making you better? Would you be less of a better person if you discovered that you don't have good reasons for thinking that your God is real?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so.
Email me if you like.
Okay, yeah.
That was really fun.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions for me? Or
Not yet. I'm sure I will, though.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. And if you see Jacob, please send him my way, or at least tell him that I said hello.
Okay,
Yeah,
sure thing.
I'd love to talk with him again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Take it easy.
Thanks again for your time.
That's great. I never see anyone leave one of those conversations without a smile and a good feeling. So I invite each of you to check out his YouTube channel and enjoy full-length versions of Anthony as he applies his SE skills to a stunning variety of thinkers. I'm sure you will find them intriguing. I certainly do. The moments I would put on the highlights reel are when he asks that perfect follow-up question, and after a light bulb moment and a brief pause, the reply goes something like this. I never thought about that before. Or, wow, that's a good question. Or maybe just an honest, I don't know. However you look at it, this guy has it all. He is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean. Oh, those are Boy Scouts. But he's got most all those qualities. Anyway, now I want you to be ready. Get your pen and paper out, because we're going to have a Q&A session after he presents to us. Sunday assemblers and visiting friends, it is with great pleasure that I turn the program over to my thought-provoking and ever-congenial friend, Mr. Anthony Magnabosco.
My goodness. Wow. What an incredible introduction. I've never experienced an introduction like that before. That was fabulous. Thank you so much, Stephen, for doing that wonderful framing of what we're going to be talking about today. And very quickly, before I get into my talk, I'd like to thank Jason, Clay, Stephen, Steve, Georgia, Brenda, Sarah. There are a lot of people working behind the scenes and have worked behind the scenes for a long period of time to make this particular broadcast happen very smoothly. So thank you so much for putting in all that effort. I really appreciate that. I think what I'll do is I'll give you a brief introduction about who I am and what motivates me. I'll cover some of the basics of street epistemology. And then I want to talk about how I think we can use street epistemology in our world and how we interact with people. And then I also want to cover why I actually promote it. My name, I think, when people think of street epistemology, they tend to often think of video examples that people have uploaded. Well, what's motivating me to do that? I want to kind of get into that a little bit. And then I also want to talk about where I think street epistemology is going. There's a huge potential for this approach, and I'm very eager to be here today to talk to you about that. And then, yes, I think we'll have some time for some questions and answers, so please write down your questions. And then if you get a chance to ask them, if you can form them as briefly and concisely as possible, that would be great. Thank you so much. I love that Stephen mentioned the unread library effect, and it's this concept of people being so sure that they understand how something actually works or functions. And yet, when you ask them to explain how it functions, very quickly, both of you will tend to realize that maybe the person doesn't really have as good of a grasp on the topic as maybe they let on at the start. But there's value in that. It's not to embarrass a person. It's to help them discover that maybe I need to find better reasons or look into this a little bit further before I start pontificating about something. All right. Well, my talk is why we think what we think. And I think encouraging people to take another look at their views in a respectful way is probably one of the best things that we can do as a human, because we do tend to form beliefs very quickly. Or if you're asked to explain your reasoning for a belief, we tend to maybe on the fly come up with reasons that seem like good reasons that may not necessarily be the real reasons. So there's value in giving a person the space, even somebody like Stephen's friend, who he might fundamentally disagree on nearly everything. If you are approaching this from a place of empathy and wanting to help that person take another look at their views and do it in a very calm, compassionate way, I think this tool will really resonate with you. It resonated with me. I started doing this in 2013, and my style was, let me debate you, let me argue with you, and let me give you evidence to show that you're wrong. And maybe I'll even ridicule you and post a meme that makes you look stupid. I did all that, and I occasionally still do that. I'm not like a perfect person when it comes to SE. That actually might be a really good point to mention, is that even after you learn this tool, it's hard to always stick with it, even though you start to realize the strengths of it and the wonderful outcomes that can happen. There's still a part of me that wants to just kind of scoff at people. But over the years, as I've been doing this, that's been happening less and less. This approach has actually not only improved my conversations with people, but it's improved me as a person. And I don't ever see that changing. All right. Another thing too is I literally harmed relationships with people around me by arguing and being in their face. So when I discovered this tool back in 2013 and started going out and having conversations with people to see if it really worked or did what the author who proposed it said that it could do, there were a lot of people that I hurt because of the way that I approached them. And I really don't ever see going back to that. All right, so maybe before we get too far into this talk, it would probably be useful to cover some of the basics of what street epistemology is. More than likely, a lot of people might be thinking, oh, I need to go out on the street to do this, and then maybe I need to be a philosopher or an academic because of the word epistemology. Two words that can really start things off on a very misleading note. Try to think of the word street as informal and epistemology as methodologies. So when we're having dialogues where we're using this thing called street epistemology, it's to reveal strengths and weaknesses with the reasons and methods that people are using to be able to say that to a high degree of confidence that they think something is true. Many, many times we focus on the reason or the belief itself that people hold. And if you do that, people can become really defensive because we often tie the beliefs that we hold to our own identity and our own worth. Our own self-valuation is likely tied to the beliefs that we hold. So if you question people about the facts that they hold, it could raise defenses. It could cause people to not be as honest with you because they're protecting it. They're circling the wagons around this belief. However, what we're finding is that if you can engage in a respectful conversation where you're revealing the foundation that it's all built on, the method that a person is using to verify their reasons, that tends to help a person more objectively look at the beliefs that they're holding. It's very odd. And we need to study this in a lab. But we've been going out and having conversations and uploading this, and this has been catching on worldwide. So I guess maybe some of the qualities of a conversation that I would say would be street epistemology would be that it's respectful and it's calm. I'm giving people the space to talk. Like if Stephen was engaging with his friend, Stephen might patiently listen to his friend for 5 or 10 minutes before he decides to repeat back what he thinks he's hearing from his friend. Repeating back what you're hearing is extremely important and useful because it lets people know that you've heard them. You're verifying that you're understanding what they've said. And it could really promote a very productive dialogue if you do that. Another element of street epistemology, I think, is it's very little telling about your own position as a foil to theirs. You can certainly reveal your stance. You can say, no, I don't really think Obama was that bad, but I'm really curious why you think he is, for example. Give people the space to talk and ask questions to help your conversation partner think about the beliefs that they hold and how they form them. This approach, I think, is really good if you can manage your own ego. If you can take yourself out of maybe in your mind, the crazy things that your friend or your loved one might be saying, if you can just objectively look at that and say, you know what, for the purpose of this conversation, I'm going to try to not get as upset. Even with that, the fellow that I was interviewing there in the video example, he was literally in my face saying, you can't be a good person unless you think that there's a higher power. And my confidence is extremely high that that's false because I'm living a life where I don't believe in any gods, and it's extremely meaningful and valuable, and I think I'm a decent human being. At least I strive to be. So it takes a lot of practice to restrict your ego as much as you can for the purpose of helping your conversation partner take a look at their views. But if you can manage that, this is one of the biggest impediments to a successful conversation, as a matter of fact, is your own emotions getting in the way of the topic being discussed. Some people have described street epistemology as helping people become comfortably uncomfortable, because these questions can be a little alarming to folks. However, when you're doing it in a way where you're encouraging them to reveal their reasons, their definitions of words, it's all about them, and it's mirroring back what you're hearing from your conversation partner. And sometimes it could be a little alarming when you hear the words that you're saying about your own deeply held belief. But that discovery is extremely valuable. That's that magic moment, I guess, where the light bulb goes off, like Stephen mentioned again, where you start to wonder, is this a good reason for being so sure that this is true? How did I form this belief? What would I need to see to lower my confidence in that claim? I think another thing that's really important is, this is sort of the final thing. We can go really deep on street epistemology, but I'm keeping it very high level, and I noticed that I have like 10 minutes left. Wow. All right. Another thing too is make sure that you check in with your conversation partner before, during, and after. Try to explain like, hey, I know you're posting a lot of stuff about QAnon. I'm finding it very interesting. Would you have a little bit of time for a one-on-one conversation, ideally in person? But if you could do a video chat, that would be great, or over the phone. Get their consent if you can before you embark on this, and maybe even occasionally check in, because you can ask 3 or 4 questions, and they could be causing a swirl of ideas in your conversation partner's head. So check in and make sure, how are we doing? Do you need a little bit of a break? Would you like to ask me any questions in return? That's completely fine to do. And then you have to pay attention to what's going on during the talk, but these don't need to be marathon sessions of 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. You can have a wonderful, productive 10 or 15-minute chat, but try to follow up afterwards and say, would you mind if we picked up the conversation? Or I thought of a wonderful new question to ask you. Do you have another 5 or 10 minutes where we can investigate that? This is about maintaining relationships with people that we disagree with for the purpose of making sure, as best as we can, that our beliefs align to the actual truth of the matter as much as possible. And this is a tool that seems like it's helpful in making that happen. I'm not entirely convinced that it is. It seems like it is. We need to study it, but everything that we seem to be seeing suggests that there's real value in this approach. Okay, what kind of claims can street epistemology be used to explore? Well, I can't really think of a claim that you couldn't use it for. Maybe opinions, maybe preferences. Like if you say, well, even your favorite sports team might do it. You could probably use SE on that. But if I say my favorite color is red, it's a little bit difficult to explore or respectfully challenge those kinds of claims. But if somebody says, I've noticed that red cars get more speeding tickets than any other car. That is a fact claim that can be explored perfectly with this approach. You can also go very micro and say, let's examine that claim about the red colored cars. Or you can say something like, how did you form this view? What would change your mind? Are there other countries where there might be other types of vehicles that are painted different colors that might get more speeding tickets? You can even go really macro and say, let's just have a broader conversation about observing something and then drawing conclusions from our observations. Are there any risks with that? Is there something that we might be able to do to sort of mitigate for that risk if we identify them? You can talk in very broad terms where you're still using the same techniques of asking questions, repeating back, listening. If they need a little bit of time, 20, 30 seconds to think about the question that you've asked, give them that time. You don't need to rush through it. This is not a race. This is about truly understanding what your conversation partner thinks is true, the reasoning why they think it's true, and then how they verify that those reasons warrant the level of confidence that they've assigned to their fact claim that they think is true. All right, 6 minutes. Why do I personally promote street epistemology? Well, I think I talked about it a little bit. I jeopardized relationships at the start when I was using a different approach. I would watch people debate and on TV shows crushing their opponents and thinking, that was extremely effective. Look at how silly they made that person look. And I started doing that with my loved ones. That was a mistake. I now have a better way. I'm never going back to that. In fact, I don't even think I would ever sit on a stage and debate with somebody. I might use SE on a stage. But I like to promote this tool because it's a potential solution to the problems that we are facing today. COVID, the election, all the stuff that we see today on social media and in the news is a tremendous existential threat to humanity, I think. So I do see this as a potential solution to that. I also like that it's simple, it's quick, it's versatile. You can use the same types of questions for any type of belief, and even possibly better, you're not focusing on the belief itself, but the reasoning and the methodology, exploring how they concluded that that's true. What epistemology or what way did you use? Take me through your steps. And if somebody realizes that the method that they're using to verify their belief that there's a pedophile ring in a pizza parlor, for example, or anything else, if somebody can discover on their own, by you asking them questions, that their methodology might be suspect, there are likely other beliefs that are being held to a high degree of confidence that they're true because of the very same method. So do you understand the importance here? If we can help people realize that my methodology might be suspect, it could help people take a look at lots of different views that they have. All right. I think ultimately, though, that while I don't think street epistemology will, I think street epistemology could be used to help us figure out more or less what might be true, or at the very least, what is probably not true, because I can't justify it to my own satisfaction. So I think that there's value there. So if we keep repeating this process, we will probably start to eliminate all the false positives that we are acting out on when we go to vote, when we decide what to teach our kids, or what we decide is going to be taught to our kids in school. All right, where is street epistemology going? I've got 4 minutes left, I think, and then maybe we'll get to some questions and answers. Correct me if that isn't right, Stephen. But where do I think street epistemology is going? I don't know where it's going, but it seems like it's heading in a very positive direction. This started in the atheist community. I think it's broadening out. Sorry, I stutter sometimes. But yeah, I think it's catching on and it's expanding beyond just the atheist community where it started. We're getting into the skeptic community. There are people who are interested in politics who are doing this. Whether you should eat meat or not. People are starting to realize the value of the tool. That's all street epistemology is. It's a tool. You can wield it any way that you want. You can possibly even harm people with this tool. I'm trying to advocate for an ethical use of this tool so that we can try to figure out as many true things and as few false things as possible. I do think that this tool will catch on because people are starting to notice that they're watching people that they disagree with honestly reflect on their beliefs in a way that they don't usually see when they're debating or arguing with them. So the fact, well, is it a fact? The possible fact that street epistemology is helpful in that regard on its own, I think, is going to help promote street epistemology. So I think you'll probably start noticing it getting more and more ingrained into our culture. At least that's my goal. Regardless of what club you happen to belong in or what political tribe you're in or any tribe that you're a part of, you can use this tool and use it with your own members or people that you disagree with. So that's a beautiful thing. I just also wanted to add here before I've got like 2 minutes left. This is growing. This is expanding. This started as an idea from a book by a philosophy professor, and it kind of spawned a grassroots kind of community / movement of people who wanted to have better conversations. We formed a nonprofit. Stephen mentioned that too. Gosh, what didn't you mention, Stephen? But Stephen mentioned our nonprofit, which is called Street Epistemology International. We have a couple of international board members and a few people from the United States. We're small, but we're going to start raising some money. We're developing a course. We want to teach people how to use this method. And there's even a film, I think it's 25% funded. It's called When in Doubt. If you go to GoFundMe and search for that, you'll probably find it, where we're trying to, we want to sort of, everyone knows what the problem is, but very few people are talking about solutions. And I think this is a solution. And it's been a real honor to talk to your group to cover that today. I really feel like I've just scratched the surface. So if you get a chance, if you go to streetepistemology.com, there's a link called Communities. Click on that, and there's a Discord server, a couple Discord servers, Facebook group, Reddit, Twitter, you name it. There are people chattering about this. We're excited about this. And I hope you look into it further. I hope the video clip that Stephen shared with you gets you a little bit excited about it, maybe my talk, and watch a few video examples. Challenge us, push back on what we're saying and what we're doing, because we don't want to harm people. We want to try to figure out a way out of the mess that we're currently in. And this seems like it might actually do it. So I want to thank you all for having me on again. I love Sunday Assembly Nashville. If things were different, I would literally be there in person to present this to you. And I'm honored that you invited me to give this talk to your group today. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Anthony. Well, the questions are indeed rolling in, so we better get right to them.
Wonderful.
I know this is my own question, so I'm going to give myself the opportunity to go first here. I know that a lot of people promote street epistemology with the primary focus of disabusing people of their faith. What is your position on that?
Well, you're right. The book that started street epistemology was called A Manual for Creating Atheists, because I think the author realized if atheists use this with theists, they're going to probably plant a pebble that can't be answered, that very well may result in that person significantly lowering their confidence in their claim that God is real, and maybe even completely abandoning that view. And it can be used for that, and I've used it for that. So you can do it for that. Again, it's a tool that can be wielded. Now, I would love to see theists learn and use this tool as well with atheists. I've even used this tool with atheists. So to answer your question, I don't really see a problem with it, because ultimately my position is that I think the world would be a better place if we strive to believe as many true things as possible, damn the consequences, damn the cost. Mm-hmm. However, not everybody shares that view. So you need to make sure that you are not pulling the chair out from somebody who can really break their back when they fall. So you have to be careful with this tool. It's a sharp tool.
Mm-hmm. Okay, gotcha. Here's another one, rolling right in. When talking with friends, family, close friends, is there a time that is better to start this kind of discussion, or a time when it's not best to have this discussion?
Well, I would say just off the top of my head,
probably about faith issues, I'm going to guess here.
I mean, it could really be anything, but I would say if somebody's in a particularly What's the word I'm looking for? Delicate situation. Maybe somebody died. Like let's keep it really simple, even non-religious. Maybe your parent dies and now you need to sell the house, and you might want to wait a little bit until some of the emotions have died down regarding that event before you start questioning whether we should keep the house or not. So just you sort of have to, well, at least I would say is ask yourself what might be the potential impact of this conversation if this person realizes to their own satisfaction that I can't justify that this is true. And am I willing to be available to them if they have to go through that hard time? And if you are not available to be there with them when they're struggling with that, then that probably is not the right time to do it. Yeah, that'd probably be one of the things that would come to mind. But for the most part, we're always talking, almost always talking and arguing and discussing and debating our beliefs anyways. So why wouldn't you use this approach in this instead?
Gotcha.
So, but I do think that because these questions can really be profound to people, that we should probably take some of those things into consideration.
Okay, thank you. Here's another question. What do you do if someone constantly shifts focus, goes immediately to another argument?
That's never happened before in conversation, right? If it happens once or twice, I don't usually get too worried about it. But if it's a consistent theme, I would probably call them on it in a respectful way, and I might say something like, I've noticed that I've asked this question or variants of this question 2 or 3 times, and I'm still not following. I'll ask a short question. My question maybe takes 30 seconds, and I'm noticing that you will send me a chunk of text, for example, if this is a text-based conversation, or you talk for 4 or 5 minutes, and by the second minute, I'm completely lost. So if you wouldn't mind, would you mind just keeping your answers a little bit more brief and focused? You can lay it all out there. You need to take into account how that might be received by your conversation partner. But what I'm finding is that there are no tricks to this method. It's very largely about being honest with what you're thinking on your own. So, is that collar driving people crazy? That would drive me crazy if that was sticking up. All right.
Driving me crazy.
So, yeah, I mean, yeah, you could just interject and say, I'm really not following you. Would you mind keeping it brief? You can say, I'll tell you what, would you ask me the same question that I asked you? And I'm going to give you an answer the way that I would like to hear you answer in return. And then they can ask you, they can ask you your question. You can repeat it back and keep it 30 seconds, not 5 minutes. And then you just modeled how you really want that to go. And then if they give a response that's in line with keeping it brief and focused, and they're not jumping from topic to topic, you can commend them for that. You can say, I'm grateful that you answer that question so concisely. Thank you so much for doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see where if you ask someone what could be a yes or no question and they ramble, you can say, ask me that question. And you just say, yes. And there you go. You're modeling what you need back from them.
Yes.
Here's another one.
Okay.
FK asks, what would be a great way to practice SE during this lockdown? If only there was an online community dedicated to that. And I guess that's kind of in the works, isn't it?
If there was only a place to go to talk about SE, there are places to go. There's a wonderful Discord server that maybe somebody can paste a link to that, an invitation link. I don't know how many thousands of members are in there, a couple thousand, where we are talking about all sorts of things. There are live shows, there's training events on the weekends. It's a wonderful community where people can go to learn more about this. But even though I'm not going out anymore with my camera, and I'm probably shifting to more strategic stuff because we want to study this, and we have a neuroscientist that's interested in what we're doing, and we've got this movie coming out. Last night, I had a wonderful conversation about the campaign. Somebody was thinking that it was stolen. I put it on my Twitter if you care. I got a couple of screenshots. And this was in the comments section of a TikTok video. Now, it's not easy. It's tougher when you're doing it over a social media platform that you can't see the person. It's a little harder to build trust and show the person that you've listened to them and you're being as honest and open as you can. But the technology is there to do this. You can go online, find people that might be willing to do a video chat with you. Mm-hmm. I even know of people I was in California 2 weeks ago. We literally went out to a park to do street epistemology. It can still be done. There's just a lot more hoops and precautions you have to take.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Okay, here's another one. Question is, what circumstance would necessitate you closing the conversation with the stranger before the agreed upon time?
Yeah, usually in my conversations, I say, do you have 5 minutes to talk? And it almost always goes longer. But even if you don't, even if you haven't stated a time limit, a lot of people who do SE just do it. They say, can I ask you a few questions? And who knows how long that's going to go. But if you notice that either one of you is becoming upset or emotionally compromised, perhaps might be a good way of doing it on either side, that's probably the indication that you need to start wrapping it up and find another time to meet up and talk again.
Gotcha. Okay.
These are great questions, by the way. Awesome.
Yeah. Here's a boy. They're just coming in like crazy. Maybe one or two, three more.
Okay.
Here's one that it's more like advice maybe. Franco asked this: advice for Black, Indigenous, people of color, trans, and other victimized folks for getting over their pain and to reach out to their abusers. I don't know how SE plays into that, but that's what he's asking. Do I need to read that again?
I'd rather pass and go to a more relevant question.
Okay, here we go. Maria says, how would you recommend to start SE with people who use and believe in unreliable information sources as a foundation of their beliefs? That seems like that's right on target, actually. So,
What was the first part of the question? It broke up for me.
how would you recommend to start SE with people who use and believe in unreliable information sources as a foundation for their beliefs?
One of the best ways to start is find an SE community and just observe and see what the chatter is, see what the fuss is all about, see what the concerns are from the people of the community. I wrote a blog post. I think it's literally called How to Get Started with Street Epistemology or something. I just put it out like a month ago. So if you search for that, or maybe somebody can drop a link to that, there's a blog post, and then there's an audio version of it. But immerse yourself in the community, watch some videos. Some people have never read any books. They had no idea that there's any communities out there. They just watched a few videos of mine or other people. There's dozens of people now, I think, who are uploading video examples. And it's enough for them to get the basics to the point where they're like, okay, I'm gonna try to use this conversation style. And they have better conversations. They'll message me later and say, dude, I watched a couple of your videos. I found myself in a situation where I used this approach, and it was the best conversation I ever had. So thank you very much for that. So immerse yourself in the community, look at the resources that are out there, figure out what works best for you, and just jump in and do it.
Okay, I've got maybe one more here. Are some people better off clinging to a false hope than facing a harsh truth?
I think the short answer to that is yes. And that's for them to decide, not for you. So you need to ask them, how much of an impact would this have on you if you discovered that this belief couldn't be justified to your own satisfaction? What kind of results would happen? Would you become addicted to drugs again because you think that this deity actually helped you survive that? And if they say, well, yeah, it would be very problematic for me, I would probably back off on it. Yeah, so there are instances where I won't use it, but I try to go where my conversation partner takes me. If they reveal to me that they really think that they would be harmed, then I would back off on it. I might shift to a completely different topic or something like that, or just end the conversation.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's fantastic. I think probably we should wrap it up there and move on. Thank you so much for your time today, and I'm sure you're going to be available through some of the contacts that we have posted on here if people need to follow up with you. Appreciate
love
your
that. Thank
talk
you.
today. It's great. All right, now for the essay equivalent of a good old testimony service. My Baptist roots are showing. This segment is called Trying My Best. It's the part of an assembly where one of our members shares an aspect of their own personal story, how they faced one of life's challenges, and how it may have changed their perspective or the course of their personal history. I can identify with today's story in many ways. It's my story too. Let's give a warm welcome and big virtual round of applause to our good friend and fellow assembler, Steve Stewart.
Hey, thanks, Stephen. Can you hear me? Everybody hear me? Okay, so good morning, everybody. Trying my best. I was raised in a home where that was an important value. My dad tried his best as an accountant and payroll supervisor. faithfully bringing home the bacon. My mom tried her best raising us 3 children. I tried my best as a Sunday school boy, studying the Bible and playing piano to accompany the singing. I tried my best all my life in education, from grade school through getting a music education degree in college and a master's of divinity in seminary. I tried to do my best in 2 marriages, raising a son and daughter. I tried to do my best as a music minister on the pastoral staff of an evangelical church in southern Indiana. I taught people what I thought were the truths about God and his ways. I led worship, directed choirs and Easter pageants, played the organ, baptized new converts, performed weddings, preached, and conducted funerals, doing my best, I thought. And then about 8 years ago, when our church thought it was doing their best, praying for years that God would lead them to a new lead pastor, poop hit the fan when we hired the wrong guy, and the church suffered a 3-way split. It was then that I wondered how the God we believed in could be doing his best in answering our prayers and guiding our elders. I started questioning if the religious people of antiquity had done their best when they wrote down all those stories and claims about a divine being they said had talked to them. The more I thought about this, I started to do a great job of sweating, scratching my head, and researching facts of history and science. The result was a 60-page monograph covering 27 topics in which I did my best to answer so many questions, which resulted in a momentous conclusion on my part. I remember the day I said to my best friend, "There really isn't a God, is there, Joe?" And that statement changed the direction of my life forever. Unfortunately, doing your best doesn't always have the positive results you might wish for. Some people reject your new perspective, and your marriage may not survive. You may lose friends and relatives. But I tried my best to make it through. I got help from a therapist, a physician, and some true friends who helped me escape a toxic situation and move here to Nashville. I did my best to hang in there through many months of sadness and loneliness. Thankfully, I found this assembly and am building some good relationships with many of you. Recently over dinner, one of you helped me think through a key aspect of my life in ways that are consistent with my new worldview. So now, doing my best means thinking of ways I can make people's day, like tipping the checker and bagger at the grocery store, like handwriting notes of thanks, congratulations, and encouragement to people I see doing great work, like giving a needy friend money for a bicycle helmet. Before COVID, I was doing my best entertaining seniors in residential centers with piano and vocal music from the Great American Songbook. And after this pandemic hit, I set up a Facebook group for my 60 fellow ushers at the Nashville Symphony. We've been furloughed since March and may not see each other again until next fall when concerts resume. I totally enjoy initiating and cultivating connections. So what if every one of us would each do those things we can that bring other people enrichment, joy, and happiness and make their day? We will definitely live better, help often, and wonder more as we keep trying our best. Thanks for listening. Keep in touch, everybody.
Thank you, Steve. Steve's story, today's political turmoil, Anthony's presentation, and our everyday concerns about how we navigate this one life we know we have can leave us feeling like we need a reset button from time to time. That leads me to our next segment, the moment of mindfulness. This is a time for reflection, meditation, if you will. It's a chance to collect our thoughts and maybe even direct them toward some aspect of betterment within ourselves. As we enter today's time of reflection, I would like to gently suggest that we focus our thoughts on strategies for reducing confrontation, embracing authentic discourse, and trying our best to bring more goodness, kindness, and understanding to the world. If you decide to close your eyes during this minute and a half, there will be an audio cue to signal the end of this section, and immediately afterwards we will go directly to a song previously recorded at a live assembly. Please start the video. And 3, 2, 1, thank you.
Her Bible stained with 1,000 tears. She's cried out for 20 years, praying that one day he'll hear and let it be your will. Passion denied again and again. She has never known a man waiting on his perfect plan, but she is lonely still. Oh, what senseless suffering. Oh, where is the love she needs? The answers are in the questions that lead to second thoughts. With courageous self-reflection, the chains of false belief fall off. Who will live? Who will see? Who will forgive? Who will be free? Truth withstands the testing, and the answers are in the questions. He recalls the day that he turned 8. No celebration, no birthday cake. Following his father in the faith, separate from the world around. Now confessing on the therapist's couch, face to face with demons and doubt. He is forsaken by the devout. It all comes crashing down. Oh, what senseless suffering. Oh, where can redemption be? The answers are in the questions that lead to second thoughts. With courageous self-reflection, the chains of false belief fall off. Who will live? Who will see? Who will forgive? Do you care that so many are trapped in blindness? Will you dare to speak to them in kindness? There are broken hearts, people torn apart. He took her photographs off of the walls, won't read her letters, won't answer her calls. It's like he never had a daughter at all. She dishonored, he disowned. But in the quiet chaos of a sleepless night, sadness is stronger than his pious pride. No holy verse can heal the hurt inside his empty heart of stone. Oh, what senseless suffering! Oh, where can the reason be? The answers are in the questions that lead to second thoughts. With courageous self-reflection, the chains of false belief fall off. Who will live? Who will see? Who will forgive? Who will be free? Truth withstands the testing, and the answers are in the question.
Boy, I hit the jackpot that day getting to sing with Sarah and Heather. That was a great time. I remember that assembly very well. It's time for us to go to a few announcements. So they'll come up on the screen and you can kind of read through them as I do. So here we go. Ways that we can get some funds in to continue our work here. We have, boy, that's hard for me to see. Becoming a sustaining member, you can set it and forget it. Where do we do that? Looks like PayPal is an option there. You can probably see that screen better than I can. I've got mine kind of minimized. You can make a one-time donation, same thing. We do still have expenses, although they're not quite as much right now as they were. And by the way, we're using some of the donations that come in to help support some other nonprofit groups during this time. So today we're going to be sending something to the Street Epistemology Foundation that Anthony's got headed up to help them out a little bit. If you want to get involved, here is the contact list. Production team, they do an awful lot of work. Jason Panks, myself in music. We've been working with some folks on some new ideas there. Live Better is our kind of social group. Not as active right now during the pandemic, but here's a good one down here. For the Wonder More, you know, when we're doing our assemblies in person, we generally had to go fairly local on our prospective speakers. So there is a silver lining to us being able now to reach out to a broader geographical area, like having Anthony with us today from the comfort of his home. Great speaker. We might be able to do that now. So if you have an inside track with someone that you think would be a fantastic presenter for a Sunday assembly such as this, this would be a good place to reach out to Nicole or Teresa on that. And let's see. Oh, one more. Oh yeah, social media. Here we go. I still think a tweet is something a bird does, but that's just me. Yeah, we have Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram ways that you can contact us and follow us. And I want to mention a special assembly that's coming up next month. We're coordinating it with international assemblies. It's going to be called our Yule Lockdown Rockdown. Take note, it won't be on Sunday. It's going to be on Saturday, December the 19th, and to accommodate all the varying time zones we have to accommodate, we're going to do that at 2 p.m. for Nashville's time. There'll be people all over the world tuning in. Some of them will be in the next day already. So Just make sure you have that on your itinerary. Should be great. We're going to have some live presentation parts and some highlights from assemblies across the world. That's You'll Lockdown Rockdown, Saturday, December 19th at 2 p.m. And now I'm going to turn it over to the chairman of our board, Brenda. She has some information and some thoughts to share with us as well. So Brenda, take it away.
Hi there, everybody. It's good to see you this morning. Sorry, I have to get the cat off my lap before I can get to my notes. So it's really nice to be here at this assembly on our 7th anniversary. What a great assembly for our 7th anniversary. So earlier when Stephen said something about we're here to stay, absolutely. We are 7 years old and going strong. That our assembly started 7 years ago with Sanderson Jones coming to Tennessee coming to the United States to launch a bunch of assemblies, including ours. So we share our assembly with our anniversary with a couple of other assemblies. And it was big news in the Nashville paper. Oh my gosh, an atheist group is starting, and hundreds of people showed up. We still have some of those original members as part of our groups, which is really amazing to me. So we started in the building and then quickly apparently moved to the Atomic Sweater, which was the decommissioned church. And then we're at Scarrett Bennett for most of our life as Nashville Sunday Assembly. And now, of course, we are hosted on Zoom because of the pandemic, but we have not allowed the pandemic to stop us. Our speakers for Sunday Assembly have presented on a huge variety of topics over these years. We have had talks about poetry, the skeptics. We had Barry Lynn on separation of church and state. We've talked about skepticism and secular songwriting, mental health and empowerment. We've had talks on unsung heroes of the civil rights movement, the power of awe. That was a nice one. We had former pastor Dave Warnock speaking about facing his own death from ALS as an atheist. We've had a new celebration called Human Light. We've had assemblies on building community, the winter sky, resilience. We've explored topics from humor and laughter to urban gardening and big cats. Clearly, we have been eager to learn more over the past years, and continuing, I'm sure we're going to have many other interesting topics. We've also done some things besides assembly. We have had Yule Y'all. We've been on Inside Man on CNN. We were a sponsor and a founding sponsor and continued sponsor of NanaCon, most of the manpower for NanaCon, the convention that ran here for 3 years, the Nashville Nuns Convention, came from Nashville Sunday Assembly. We participated in Reason Rally in 2016 in DC. The Unnamed Assembly Band, as well as several other people from Sunday Assembly, were at the Atlanta and San Diego conferences and obviously played a large part. And then, of course, last year in 2019, we hosted Reassembly, where we had people come from all over the country and from overseas to attend Sunday Assembly Reassembly. We've had numerous spring bonfires, fall bonfires and spring picnics. And we've also helped charities from Second Harvest to Atheists Helping the Homeless to Diaper Connection and Nashville Cares. And that's just a sample of some of the Help Often things that we have done. And of course, We've had smoops, including approximately 1 million middle ground smoops held at Georgia and Stevens. And I don't know about you guys, but I miss those so much. But we will get those back. We will. We just have to wait till it's safe. But clearly, Sunday Assembly Nashville has been very active over the past years, and we are looking forward to many more years of Sunday Assembly. So happy birthday to us. The board decided during the pandemic that we would change the election time. At first, we were holding off, hoping we were going to meet in person. But then we decided, nope, it looks like we need to do an online election. And we decided to retime the election from May to November, our anniversary. It just makes sense. So from now on, our elections are going to be held in November every year. And I am happy, first of all, to thank Tony Wheeler and Patrick Horst for their service. They are rotating off the board, so thank you very much for your service. And I am welcoming one incumbent and 2 new people to the board. The incumbent is Jeannie Butte. Welcome back, Jeannie. And our new folks are Josh Brown and Jason Panks. So welcome to all the new J's on the board, Jeannie, Jason, and Josh. Thank you so much for participating in Sunday Assembly. And I'm going to throw it back to you, Stephen Phelps.
Thank you, Brenda Quinn. Appreciate what you do for us all. We're nearing the end. We got a couple of more things to do. One is kind of a song that has somewhat become our go-to anthem. It's a short little chorus thing called I Believe in Good. We'll do that, and then I'll have some closing thoughts, and that should take us out for the day. We are going to have Anthony sticking around afterwards on Zoom, so if you have some more questions, he said he would be with us for a moment there. We look forward to that. Sing along there in your homes. I believe in good. Oh, I believe in good. I believe in being good and doing good just for goodness sake. Good makes the whole world better. Good is great, and I believe in harmony. Respect for all humanity. I believe that we will find the only truth we need, living this one life by this one creed. I believe in good. I believe in good. I'm gonna get a little southern gospel here. Now. I believe in good. I believe in good. Yes, I do. Oh, I believe in good. I believe in good. I believe in being good and doing good just for goodness sake. Good makes the whole world better. Good is great, and I believe in harmony. Yes, I do. Respect for all humanity. Do you believe it too? I believe that we will find the only truth we need, living this one life by this one creed. I believe in good. Come on. I believe in good. I believe in good. I believe in good. And now for a few closing thoughts. Thought I might give it a little twist this time. Now, here we go. We all want to be loved. We want to be heard. We want our viewpoints to be validated. We're all tribal. We all take sides. Despite our best efforts to seek some absolute certainty and near 100% confidence level that we have found the perfect truth, we can all hold views that are the product of our implicit bias, religious upbringing, ignorance, social pressures, childhood indoctrination, or any of a host of other influential forces. Yes, even I, even you, might be wrong, or at least not fully informed. That's a truth serum that's hard to swallow. So what do? It's easy to get caught up in the confirmation bias trap and seek out only those sources that reinforce what we already hold to be true. Today's social media and artificially intelligent search engines will happily spoon-feed us more and more and more of what satisfies our binge-worthy appetites. When I pull up YouTube, you can bet I'll be offered a very pleasing palette of disc golf videos and musician interviews garnished with the side of political news. YouTube has my number. You are just as likely to find exactly what you don't even have to search for as well. Cute kittens, macrame instruction, do-it-yourself home upgrades, the latest Q drop, how to brew a great IPA, X-rated encounters, gamer videos, travel destinations, etc. How we can get our fill of just what we have a taste for. But how about other online platforms, like maybe Facebook? Chances are pretty good that you're sharing your life interests with your family, friends, and carefully selected, most like-minded, good folks like yourself. Your chances of being confronted with the absurd notions of a reviled enemy are pretty low. There are exceptions. Even a good faith effort to state your piece in peace is sometimes attacked by those you have allowed to enter your hallowed circle. The good news is, your ability to put a hard stop on those unwanted intruders of your personal worldwide web space is but one unfriend click away. No more critics, no more pesky interlopers. But wait just a doggone skeptical minute. We are the group that professes to be free thinkers, able to navigate the turbulent waters of anyone's claim and sail into the clear blue peaceful waters of reason. Ah, right again, grasshopper. So, my open-minded and inquisitive friends and fellow assemblers, today I throw down the gauntlet and challenge you to hold a mirror of epistemology right in front of your self-reflecting face and be brave enough, sure enough, honest enough, and malleable enough to make life an ongoing opportunity to learn, grow, correct courses needed. It's better to discover when you're wrong sometimes and improve your way of thinking than become a fossil of fallacy. Be engaged, be genuine, be nice, be ready to have even the most difficult conversations and still be cool. You may find yourself the recipient of positive change, and you may find yourself the catalyst for positive change in another, and you may just find yourself, period. Either way, everybody wins. Tune in again next month. Till then, thank you for joining us on